All right, we are back. We are behind the bench with episode 2 of Paint Your Chapter. Let's not beat around the bush. It's the boys from Baal, the Sons of Sanguinius, no one better, the 11th edition drop, the Blood Angels. We're going to smash these boys out with some layering, learn a completely new different technique. So let's just be fearless with it and get some paint on some plastic. Let's go. Alright, so we're going to start out straight up with Nocturnal Red. This is from Vallejo. We're just going to try and cover as much of the mini as we can, trying to keep a bit of darkness in the recesses. Yeah, you do want to be sparing with this, but then at the same time, you don't want to leave too much left for the imagination. You want to try and cover this as best as you can, because this is going to set up our foundations for our actual layering once we start. Alright, starting with Scarlet Blood from Vallejo. Pretty simple to do. We're going to load up a wet palette, make sure our paint consistency is pretty thin. So as we start to pick it up, you want to make sure that you're not laying it on too thick, otherwise it's just going to end up looking shit in the end. You want to try and stay away from the recesses that we've built with that Nocturnal Red, because later on this is just going to give us the depth and the shadow that we need to just sort of separate those armor panels. Again, make sure you've thinned your paints. This is probably going to take 2 or 3 coats, which is completely normal when it comes to layering. But if you rush this and lay it on too thick, it's just going to look shit in the end, which is what we're not trying to achieve. Layering is one of those things that it takes a lot of time, but we can get there eventually. It just takes a lot of patience. Slowly moving around, like I said, staying away again from those deeper recesses, because we do not want to fill those in, because that's, like I said, going to give us that depth and that overall look that we want in the end. Alright, so now that we've worked our way around the mini with the Scarlet Blood, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Scarlet Blood and Hot Orange. This is all by Vallejo. We're just slowly going to work our way around the mini, picking up all the higher points that are going to sort of catch that direct light, which is going to make the reds, with the transitioning of the colors that we've done through layering, it's going to make it look brighter, which is going to give the effect of natural light catching these parts of the mini. This is what we want to try to achieve. Again, make sure you're thinning your paints, otherwise it's just not going to work and you're just going to find yourself struggling the entire time. Right, so now with straight Hot Orange, all we're doing is literally picking up the smaller edges, the tops of the panels, the edges of the panels, and just working our way around the mini. Making sure, again, thinning our paints, otherwise it is just going to turn out terrible. It's going to have no transition between the colors, and it's just going to look blocky and shit. Just continuously going around, picking our little edges, going across the toes, the tops of the pauldrons, all the bits and pieces, the fingers, everything like that that is going to catch that natural light. That is what we're trying to achieve. Again, thin your paints, otherwise it's not going to work. You need to have a decent consistency, otherwise it's just going to look terrible. Coming across the top of the packs, you can see the change in the color just there. And that's all we're trying to do, is just slowly build up those highlights. Alright, so now, Coal Black, Pro Acryl, we're just going to work through and pick out all those black details for their undersuit. I think it's called an undersuit, I'm not really sure what it is. But with a nice sharp point on your brush, being precise with your brushwork and taking your time, filling in all those little gaps in the middle. You don't want to leave these out. You can try to when you're painting, but it's one of those things you still always want to come back in and touch up, because it does give that selling effect at the very, very end when you finished your mini. Working around near the dick cover, or his cup, whatever you call it, just picking out all those finer details. Alright, now it's time for the selling point transfers. I love transfers. With my transfers, I like to cut as close as physically possible to the transfer itself, cutting away all that excess material that you don't need, because especially when it comes to pauldrons, because they're so round, if you have excess material, it's going to leave bubbles and it's just going to look shit. So trim as close as you can to your transfer without clipping the transfer itself. You've got to make sure you center your transfers. Make sure you put down micro set before you put your transfers down, otherwise they're not going to adhere and stick as best as what they could. Again, making sure they're centered, because nothing makes a mini look more shit than uncentered transfers. Pushing them around, trying to get as much of the air and the water out underneath them as we can, that way they'll sit flush. Now with a wet paper towel, just make sure that bad boy is pushed down as best as possible. Try not to move the transfers around like I did in that one then. You just want to make sure they stick. Alright, now we're going to take Rhinox Hide from Citadel. We're going to make sure that we've thinned our paints properly, and we're just going to have a nice sharp tip on our brush, just taking our time, slowly working around all those pouches, hitting all the edges, filling in all that coat that we've got already, just as we're just taking our time. You do not want to rush this. You've spent ages layering all of that red. You do not want to mess this up. Just take your time, just slow as smooth, smooth as fast. Just be methodical and precise with your brush work. That's all we're trying to achieve. It's just a nice, even coverage. All right, so now we're just going to make our way around, and we're just going to block in all the black trim around the pauldrons. This is something you definitely want to take your time with. Make sure you don't want to thin your paint too much. You want it workable, but then you also don't want it too thick, because you don't want it to bleed over, hit edges, hit any of the work that you've done. Literally take your time with this. This is where those magnifying glasses that I harp on about come in, like they just come in clutch. Just take your time. Nice sharp point, slowly working our way around the mini. I cannot say it enough, taking your time. Just take your time with this. This is one of the biggest selling points when it comes. Make sure you've got good control over the mini, good control over your brush, and just slowly build that. All right, now we're just going to take a makeup sponge or any sort of sponge, and we're just going to blend that transfer in as best as we can, just by taking our brightest colors that we had, making sure that we're catching that natural light, and then just bringing in our brush, doing a few streaky little lines across, just blending in that transfer so it doesn't look as if it's not a part of the mini, if that makes sense. Now this is Tamiya TS80. This is my go-to when it comes to matte varnishing my miniatures. You don't want to spend all this time painting this mini and then not matte varnishing it. Mind you, this shit is really sticky, so I strongly suggest doing it in a well-ventilated area and probably doing it with gloves on. I didn't do it with gloves on, and my fingers ended up getting stuck together, but this will blend in everything and make it look perfect. This is why I love Tamiya TS80. It is such a good matte varnish. You can see how well everything has just come together. All of our highlights with our hot orange, our transfers, our blacked out bolter, the leatherwork, everything has now just become one, and it is uniform. The volumes are there, the contrast is there. It is awesome. Alright, time for our metallics. We're going to hit that Aquila with Retributor Armour from Citadel. It is by far the best gold on the market. I just use that with a sharp point, taking our time, being precise with our brushwork, slowly, methodically making our way around. That easy. While we're waiting for that to dry, we're literally now just going to go through with, I'm pretty sure it's Dark Silver by Pro Acryl, and we're literally just going to do all of the gunmetal. So just going through with the magazine, we'll end up doing the body of the bolter, the barrel, the backs of the pack, all those parts that need that dark silver metallic. We're just going to make our way around the mini and just pick those up as we go. Alright, now that we've got our metallics down pack, we're going to take Nuln Oil and Seraphim Sepia and just hit all those metallics. Nuln Oil is good for our silver metallics. Seraphim Sepia is awesome for when it comes to our gold metallics. Seraphim Sepia will sink into the recesses but still keep that shine, give you depth and brightness. Alright, so we're just going to take some Bold Titanium White from Pro Acryl, block in those eyes, and then just work in that striking Scorpion Green for that OSL effect that gives the lenses that glow. Alright, so with some 1mm cork and 2mm cork, we built up a taller, prouder base for our mini to stand on. I don't like my mini sitting flat, so I like to build them up higher. With the cork, we then threw some texture paste across the base just to fill in the gaps between the two, and then now we're just laying down a solid base prime, so that way we can throw the rest of the colours in. Now we're just taking Citadel's Mornfang Brown and just filling in and painting in all that texture paste that we laid down from Vallejo. Alright, so now we're laying down some Skeleton Horde as well as some Thoradonian Brown, I think it's called, from Citadel. With the Skeleton Horde, we're just laying that all through. That's going to give us some depth to that actual texture in the base. And then once that is dry, we just come back through with that next level of brown and hit it with a heavy dry brush just to pick out all those high points, just to add, again, more texture to the base. And now the final detail, like every mini, we're just going to take some coal black from Pro Acryl, which again is my favorite black. I think it looks incredible, and we're just going to finish off that base rim. Easy and simple, just be precise with it. Don't try and get it all over the work that you've just finished on your base. And that's it, we are done. And just like that, guys, we are done and dusted with the second episode of Paint Your Chapter. Blood Angels, the boys from Baal, the Sons of Sanguinius, my all-time favorite chapter across the whole Loyalist chapters. They're my favorite. Even their successor chapters are awesome. Their lore is sick. I cannot get enough of them. But layer painting, like we did here, is not hard. It is super easy. It is super effective. And if you paint your miniatures like this, it is going to stop everybody that you play with or that sees your miniatures, and they're going to be blown away. The things to remember that are crucial when it comes to this though, guys, make sure you thin your paints and make sure you're precise with your brushwork. Invest in those glasses. They are definitely going to help, like I've said countless times before. Let me know down in the comments which chapter you want me to do next. I have no idea. Possibly something Raven Guard, Iron Fists, maybe Imperial Fists, I should say, or Iron Hands. I'm easy, just let me know. As always, be fearless, paint fearlessly, and I will see you all again soon. God damn it, man, now I gotta clean all this fucking shit up.